Welcome into the betPARX postgame. Just let him take it away.
Yes.
Just take it away. Your Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl, ladies and gentlemen, with a dominant 55-23 victory over the Washington Commanders. An absolute blowout, a conference championship record in the NFL, led by Jalen Hurts with a 4-touchdown day, 3 on the ground, 1 through the air, and everybody got some, especially this Eagles defense. Zach Bond forcing a fumble. Zach Bond recovering a fumble. The Eagles all over the Commanders, especially in the second half. And one of my favorite things was the first 2 possessions of this game. The Commanders did everything they could to get down the field, 18 plays included, came away with just 3 points. 1 handoff to Saquon Barkley, and the next thing you know, he crosses the goal line for a touchdown, and the Eagles were off and running after that. I personally, Seth, I can't believe it. I'm looking at my lifetime. The Eagles made it to 1 Super Bowl in my lifetime, up until Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts got together, and then they had won a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. How great was it that he was up there presenting the NFC Championship trophy there to the Eagles? Eagles going back to a 3rd one since 2017. It is amazing.
Unbelievable. Within a 7-year span, 3 trips to a Super Bowl, 1-1. And let me tell you something. This team has a shot, the way that it's built, to win their 2nd Super Bowl in the last 7 years. This is just phenomenal. And I like to tell you that I told you so. There ain't a snowball's chance in hell that they coming up in the link and beating the Eagles in here. I'm so glad that they got it done so that I didn't have to eat crow. But when I said it, I really meant it. You know, this team is built in the right way on both sides of the ball, and players are stepping up and making plays across the board on both sides of the ball, special teams, the whole deal. You know, D. Gunn, how you feeling about my kicker, Jake Elliott, today?
I'm so happy for Jake. He finally got that proverbial monkey off his back. You talk about this team's built the right way to win the 2nd one in 3 years. The way Howie built this team is constructed right now to be relevant for the next 3-4 years. You look at the youth on this team. They had the youngest starting 11 on defense in the National Football League. Zach Bond is the key to re-signing. They're not letting Zach Bond get away.
They can't.
They're not, and I don't know how much the price is going to be driven up, but the fact that he makes All-Pro, the price is going up. But we also know that Howie Roseman finds a way to keep players he wants to keep. Nobody does it better than Howie in terms of moving money around to make it fit within the structure of his cap. I'd be shocked. But this team right now, with the youth movement, the veteran presence on this team, is built to be relevant for years to come. Why can't they go on a 3 or 4 year run getting back to the Super Bowl when you look at the way they're built?
In my opinion, there's no reason why they can't, because if you really stop and think about it, someone was asking me about this, as they started on their run after the bye week. What do you think? Does this team have what it takes to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? And I said, listen, quite frankly, they do. The way that they're constructed and the way that they play, they are built to win the Super Bowl. I said, but if they don't get there for some odd reason, they're a year ahead of schedule, But you got to make hay when you can make hay. And they're in a position now where they can go and win the Super Bowl, win it this year, because you never know, injuries and things can happen next year that will prevent them from getting back. But to your point, D-Gun, they are supremely built to be a contender in a major way for years to come, at least for the next 3 years.
Yes.
The way that they're built. They got Saquon for 2 more years. You just re-up, your 2 wide receivers. Your quarterback is locked in. Your 2 wide receivers just got re-up. Your left guard got re-up. Your left tackle just got re-up.
Yep.
You got all of these pieces that are in place.
2 wide receivers extended.
And so much youth on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of these young players are just coming into their own. Nolan Smith showed up again today, just coming into his own. You got the 2 young cornerbacks, Mitchell and DeJean. They're just going to get better as young cornerbacks. You got your safety tandem is where it needs to be. Your defensive line, you can add one more piece, one more hellraiser to the defensive line, and an outside pass rusher. My goodness, who can stop this team when they're playing this way? Now, the trick is going to be retooling, getting back, doing it again, and having the same motivation year after year. But they are supremely sitting at a point right now where they should be competing for Super Bowls at least over the next 3 years?
Two things. I think this is Howie's best construction job ever, and that includes the 17 team. Now, they had a lot of depth on their team, lost a lot of key players, and they went on to win it. But when you just look at the roster, I think this is Howie's best job of constructing a team, number one. And number two, I know we still have a Super Bowl to play, but looking ahead, this offseason will be a season where they don't have to replace a lot of pieces. You can sit back. You might get one or two pieces, but you're going to build through the draft again. You get even younger and hopefully even better because these rookies are now going to be helping teach these young kids what it means to get to this point. With this, you can't place value on the experience these young kids are getting this year in terms of what it's like to win close games, what it's like to make key contributions as a young player. These young kids grew up to the point they're going to be veterans for the new crop of players coming in.
Yeah, you know, the thought is all the time, you know, when we entered the playoffs, it was like, okay, so I had Brian Dawkins on one show. I had Dick Vermeil on another show. And I asked him, I'm like, if you could step into the locker room with all of these young players, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, what would you tell them? You know? And their thing was stay even keel. Just realize that football, this is just it's another game, but the level of intensity is going to go up, and you got to figure out how you balance that, because you don't want to use all your energy in the beginning of the game and run out of steam towards the end of the game. But D-Gun, I mean, you make such a great point. You know, the experience, because you got to think about it. The last time the Eagles were in the Super Bowl was 2022. How many of those guys that was on that team, on that roster, are still on this team? So with all these new guys coming in, and yeah, you got some Georgia guys that played in national championships, but trust me, the Super Bowl is a whole different animal.
That's right.
So now how do you get these guys to fall in line and get them to understand the importance of what they're beginning to embark on? And guess what? Nick Sirianni, as the head coach, has been there before. He lost the Super Bowl in 2022. He understands what it takes to get these guys ready and get them prepared. His mentorship, along with Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham and all of those guys who know what it is to win a Super Bowl, but at the same time go to another Super Bowl and lose it, that experience is priceless. It's priceless, not only coming from those guys, but the experience that's given to these young guys to be in this position and what it's like to not only be in a wild card game and win a divisional game and then get a NFC Championship game at home, and now have the privilege of going to New Orleans and trying to take down Super Bowl 59. How apropos.
You know what, Seth?
I might wear my own jersey, man.
What?
And you know I don't wear no. Hey, listen, Taylor, put your hand down. I do not wear throwback jerseys. I think when you get to a certain age, I just feel like, you know, you got to leave that to the young people.
I agree.
Yes.
But I might pull my own jersey out and walk around with it on all week.
You earned it. You earned it. No, I have a rule. I don't wear a jersey of someone that I'm older than. It's a rule I never break, okay? So I'll wear it from your generation and all that stuff. I'll wear those jerseys. I don't want a Randall coming home.
If he does that, I might have to pull out my Brian Dawkins autograph jersey. You're going to go that far. I might do all that stuff.
Hey, man, we might have to do the show on Super Bowl Sunday in jerseys.
Ooh. Hey, I'm still waiting for Brandon Graham to deliver mine. I may even wear Brandon Graham's jersey.
You should wear a Jake Elliott jersey, actually.
Say what?
You should wear a Jake Elliott jersey.
I'm
just saying is all.
After hating on him. After hating on him today.
Exactly.
We probably shouldn't.
Hold up.
We might not let you get up here unless you wear a Jake Elliott jersey.
I know you're not talking about getting on players this season, many players you got on this season. You might have to wear a jersey with 20 different numbers on the jerseys. Hey, now you think about that.
Hey, as a tribute, I'll wear them. Because, listen, the guys that I got on, when I got on them, they deserve for me to get on them.
Right.
But you know what? They have all grown up extremely fast. And guess what? They are contributing in a major way. They develop quickly. And I give kudos and props and everything else when these players play well. You know, but when they deserve criticism, it's our job as media people to make sure that we give the truth in criticism. But you also got to turn around and say, hey, that guy Nolan Smith I didn't see what he brought to this team this year. And 100%, you know, you got to go at the other end of the spectrum and give that guy a thumbs up and a pat on the back, because he has been balling out this year. Nakobe Dean, same thing. I'm hurting for that guy because he got it together, and now he's not going to be able to experience the joy of what it's going to be like to be able to play in the Super Bowl.
Hey, Seth, Double R says, hey, Seth, grow a Super Bowl mustache.
Not happening.
No?
Not happening.
Why not?
Man, listen.
Okay, I tell you, here's the thing. You grow one and I'll shave this all off.
Whoa,
Come on, man.
What you talking about, man?
Why not?
Crazy, Gunner.
Let's flip the script here. Let's do something different, man.
You ride the horse that brought you.
First of all, you can't cut your mustache.
Why not?
Second of all, I seen what I look like in a mustache. You ain't gonna ever see me in a mustache.
Like the Frito Bandito?
Oh my gosh! All right, I look back at old pictures. I'm like, what were you thinking?
Can you at least grow back the flat top?
No.
Oh, come on.
What about the fade? Can't get the fade?
Hey, listen, it's too much salt and pepper going on here, man. And I always said when I turned 60, I was just gonna wear it. But the older I get, the less inclined I am to wear that gray. I'm just not gonna wear it. I look too damn old with anything gray on me: hair, mustache, goatee, beard. I ain't doing it.
No, but gray is a sign of splendor and prosperity.
No.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. Hey, listen.
Father Time catches up to all of us.
They say 60 is the new 40. I look 40.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, 40.
I'm cool with that.
Go ahead, 40.
Who is they? Other 60-year-olds?
I don't know who it is. Maybe I said it.
Let me ask it. We were reminded this week when Saquon Barkley addressed the media about him stepping into his first huddle at Eagles practice and looking at that huddle and seeing A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and seeing this offensive line and seeing Jalen Hurts and said, wow, this is what it feels like to be on a team that you feel like could be special. And now here are the Eagles back in the Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley just a handful of yards shy of making single-season and postseason history for rushing yards in a single-season and postseason combined. He was the guy that got the jolt going in the offense with that 60-yard run. Nothing short of spectacular there. And here is a team that came in with a lot of expectations, adding Saquon Barkley to these wide receivers and also Dallas Goedert as a tight end. And this offense has been dominant, riding their running back in Saquon Barkley. How special of a moment do you think just individually is this for Saquon to leave the Giants?
Oh, my goodness.
Come here to the Eagles, get another 2,000 or get a 2,000-yard season, only one of 9. And not only that, and he heard him say it with Aaron Andrews in the postgame, that this is what it's all about. Hey, we haven't done it. We get to a Super Bowl. Winning the Super Bowl is the goal.
Hey, listen, man. If any of us could fathom what it would be like to die and go to heaven, that's what Saquon Barkley has to be experiencing, at this point in time. And let me tell you something. It's one thing for him to step in that huddle, okay, and say, man, look how special this is. But can you imagine how the rest of his players, his teammates feel? Because when he stepped in that huddle and brought what he was bringing to the table, he made that huddle extra special.
Think about the fact that he spent 6 years wasting away with the Giants. Look at the numbers he put up with the Giants. He was virtually most of his career there a one-man show. And look at the numbers he put up. And he didn't want to leave the Giants. He didn't want to leave. They forced him out. But to come here, it's like going from Mojave Desert to paradise. And everything that he has done has exceeded anybody's expectations. We knew he was one of the best running backs in the National Football League. This season, he showed he is the best running back in the National Football League. Look at the volume of touches he's had. We hone in on just his running touches, but you have to couple in his receiving touches as well. Not that many, but enough. And then you look at the total touches and the numbers he put up, and he's still going strong. We always talk about when a running back reaches a certain age and he takes X amount of touches and X amount of pounding, he starts to wear down. He looks like he's getting stronger every game.
Well, D-Gun, that's what I said, early in the year when everybody had concerns about whether the Eagles were overusing him. Saquon said, I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in my life, okay? And I'm sure when they signed him, Howie Roseman, Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni, they all sat down and talked about what an integral part he was going to play within this offense, that he probably needed to be in the best shape that he could be in. You look at Jalen Carter and look at how he faded down the end towards last year, and look at how much he's playing now. I guarantee you it was expressed to him that you are a major piece, a major player on this team, on this defense. We need you to get in the best shape that you can be in because, buddy, you're going to play 90 to 95% of the plays. So when guys get in shape that way and they understand what's going to be asked of them, there's no reason for us to be concerned about whether we're overusing him or not. Even today, I mean, what did he wind up with yards, carries. I think
15 carries, 118 yards.
118 yards.
15 carries. So guess what? They gave him the week off. He had 2 good games. They minimized his amount of touches today because they didn't need him to carry the ball 30 times. Okay? So now he's going to get a week's rest before they start the grind for the Super Bowl. And when he lines up on February 9th, if you don't think that motor ain't going to be revving 1,001 miles RPMs, bro, let me tell you something, man. And when you win like this, D-Gun, when you're on a run like this, when you go 17-3 over a 20-game span, guess what? It only energizes you. You get tired when you're losing. When you're losing and you're getting beat up, your energy stores are down, your adrenaline, everything is down. But when you're winning, everything rises. Everything gets much more intense. And I just expect for him to continue to play the way he's playing.
And Saquon is such a selfless player. Go back to the season. He had a chance to break his personal best, let the young dogs eat, okay? Look at how he blocks for Jalen on running plays. I mean, look at how he blocks picking up blitzes, man. Throws his whole body into it. It's not like just one of these shoulder blocks. He puts everything into it, man. For as much as they count on him, he lets you know that he's there for everybody else, every single play. This might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. See, as a football player, you have to think that. Even though the teams that are really good have the potential to go back every year, the mindset has to be, this might be a once-in-a-lifetime moment for me, and I want to take advantage of every opportunity. And that's what he's done all season long.
Hey, yeah, listen, you have to, because you look at some of the greats. Dan Marino went to the Super Bowl, early in his career, never made it back. Mm-hmm. I waited 12 years before I got to my first Super Bowl and lost. And when that game was over, I felt like I'd never have the opportunity of being able, I was just blessed to have an opportunity to go to a team that repeated, and I finally got mine. It happens all the time. So what these players have to do is understand the urgency of the moment, because anything could happen. I mean, I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, but when you talk about players and the potential for injury in today's game, torn ACLs and things of that nature, that you lose a player for the entire year, a major piece to this offense or defense, we could lose at any time. So this is a golden opportunity for them to go and take care of their business and do what needs to be done, and that's to come home with that Lombardi trophy.
Certainly. When we come back, we'll obviously continue to break down this 55-point performance and just holding the Commanders to 23 points today in the NFC Championship game. We haven't even gotten to Jalen Hurts' performance. We'll get into that, as well as what is our drive of the game. And don't forget to stay in that chat. If you're on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel watching us there live, stay in that chat. We have another giveaway for you coming up in our 4th segment today. So stick around. We'll be right back right here on the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Parx Casino in Bensalem, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. At Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Marc Farzetta along with Eagles Hall of Famer Seth Joyner and veteran Eagles reporter Derrick Gunn. You know, I've seen you in the chat, people, talking about Jalen Hurts haters. Where are you at? I don't even want to feed into that, but I know you guys are talking about it. You guys are kicking it around. This was not something that we doubted as a show. All three of us have looked at Jalen Hurts saying that this guy is a special quarterback. And I saw the commentary from Cam Newton earlier in the week talking about how Jalen Hurts has to manage his ego. Nobody who has been covering the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm sure even the Hurts haters, at least know the fact that Hurts' ego has nothing to do with it. It is not a negative. In fact, it is a wonderful thing to have. It's an intense positive for the Eagles to step aside and let the running game take over because you know it could be the most dominant force in the NFL. That's something special. Today, Jalen Hurts was a huge factor, if not the factor, in this Eagles victory. A 4-touchdown game for Jalen Hurts today, including rattling off numbers in the passing game, 20 of 28 with a handful of throwaways, also averaging 8.8 yards per attempt. 1 touchdown through the air, 3 on the ground, and a 110 passer rating is pretty special. And that's what makes him our mid-pen bank player to bank on here in this Eagles victory over the Commanders in the NFC Championship game. Those are the numbers right there. And this is a guy that needed to step up to silence a lot of those haters. But the question really came in for Eagles fans and football fans in general. Is it really something as simple as Jalen Hurts saying, all right, activate the passing game? If whether or not you believe that he could do it. He did it against the Steelers this season when they were able to bounce back after a porous performance against the Panthers. And then in this game, when they needed him to step up, he did that again today. And it was in the NFC Championship game. What a day, Seth, for Jalen Hurts.
Hey, listen, I've been saying all year long, I just, this quarterback, we've seen him do it time and time again when he's been called upon to do it. But, the narrative went forth not only locally but nationally about his inabilities to throw the ball when clearly this was a run first offense. Jalen Hurts since week 4 has averaged right around 21 passes per game because the intent was to run the football. The Eagles ran the football probably at a 65 to 35% clip all season long, but when he needed to throw the ball against the Pittsburgh Steelers, hey, is this what y'all wanted to see? I can do it when I need to do it. I can do it when called upon. He did it today. They came out throwing the football in the first quarter of this football game, and he was magnificent throwing the football around. So when they need him to throw it, he can throw it. There's no doubt about it. It's not always pretty. It's not always the greatest of things, but even the play call, there was a lot of plays today that we hadn't seen in a long time. They had some coverage beaters today that we hadn't seen all season long. Jalen can get it done any way that you need him to get it done. The guy's a flat-out winner, and hopefully some of these haters nationally and locally will now step off of this thing that he can't get it done and understand that every single year is different, okay? In 22, they needed him to throw the football, and he almost won the MVP. He comes back last year, and his numbers were decent last year. The problem was the turnovers, okay? This year they come in, they got Saquon Barkley. After 4 weeks, they make the decision that they're going to be a run-first offense, okay? So that meant that Jalen was going to throw the ball a little bit less and be a lot more protective about it, throwing the football, because as we've seen it all through the playoffs, the team that wins the turnover battle is the team that ultimately wins the football game. So he's been protective. Don't turn it over, even if the numbers look minuscule, because we're dominant enough up front to get what we want, how we want it in the run game. And they were doing that. So, but when you ask him to step forward and get it done in any way, he gets it done. He's a flat-out winner, and I hope that people will now shut up and give this guy the credit he deserves. 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowls in a 3-year span for a second-round quarterback that everyone told him what he can't do. And I don't want to hear that, Saquon, carried him. BS. Because when they needed him to throw the ball, he's thrown the ball. And guess what? Next year might be a different year. They may be more of a pass-centric team next year if they choose to be that way. Because as Nick Sirianni said, hey, we can beat you throwing, we can beat you running, we can beat you turning it over on defense, we can beat you with our offense, we can beat you however it is that we need to beat you, okay? So just take it as that. The Eagles did what was necessary to win the games that they need to win, how they need to win them.
How did Saquon Barkley play for the Eagles in 2022 when they went to the Super Bowl? Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
What do you know? But real quick, Gunner, because I know you got plenty to add to this, but I just want to highlight this real quick. After the Barkley touchdown of 60 yards on their first possession, Jalen Hurts on that next possession after the ball forced fumble. Yeah, Goddard was hit for a 10-yard gain there from Jalen Hurts. Devontae Smith on a dime outside that he made a great catch on, but it was only in a place where he could get it for 20 yards. Brown catches a ball for 10 yards, A.J. Brown on 10 yards, and then Barkley trots in there for the touchdown. Go into the second quarter there, and you have Jalen Hurts capping things off there with a tush-push touchdown after hitting A.J. Brown on a 4th and 5 for 31 yards, and that one right there was a dime as well. We could talk all the great things about Saquon Barkley throughout the year. Today was the day for Jalen Hurts to shine.
You know, this game, this moment, this season is about redemption for a number of people. Go back to early in the season. A lot of people wanted Nick Sirianni out of here when his team was 2-2. As the season went on, people started complaining about they wanted A.J. Brown out of here because he was a distraction. People doubted Jalen for much of the season. The national pundits on the outside looking in, who I understand cover a lot of teams but don't spend a lot of time within the structure of just this team or any one team. For whatever reason, they began to pile on as well. And all this team did was find ways to win games. Didn't have to be perfect, didn't have to be blowouts. The bottom line is they were stacking up the W chips. And they just kept going about their business. They didn't care what anybody thought. They didn't care about what we thought. They just kept stacking up the chips. And look at them now. 55 points in an NFC Championship game. Think about that. 55 points in an NFC Championship game. Have you ever seen that before?
It hasn't happened in a conference championship game.
But the quarterback's going to hold his team back from getting to a win.
All he was 20 of 28 today.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all he was, 20 of 28. And what does he say? You know, I'll tell you what, I would not want to sit across from him and play poker because you never know what he's thinking because you don't think he hears the attackers out there?
Absolutely.
He does. He sits at the and even when the media presses him on certain issues, he has the same demeanor, the same look on his face every time, and he gives you a very vague answer. He's not going to give you too much, not going to give you too little. And sometimes when he walks away, people are going, okay, what did he just say here? He knows what he said. But he leaves you wondering exactly what does he mean by that, and he goes out and does his business.
You know what he gives you though? The only thing that matters.
That's all that matters.
And he repeats it time and time again.
The only thing that matters to him. That's
the main thing is the main thing.
And I love this team concept. It's such a selfless team. You know, there's no one bigger than the moment. You know, the front office talks about that. You heard Jeffrey Lurie talking about that at the moment, about how these guys play for each other. It's not one individual playing for themselves. And, you know, okay, AJ, you know, receivers want the ball. A couple times he brought it up that we don't pass the ball well enough. But for the most part, he wasn't a distraction, okay? They took care of it in-house. The leaders get together. The players always have an open-door policy with the coach. You can go in and talk. They talk these things out, and they keep moving forward, you know. And you can't say that about a lot of teams. Chemistry is huge in terms of building the right formula to be an elite team in the National Football League.
Tell them one more time, D-Gun.
Chemistry is a key formula in terms of building an elite product in the National Football League, a consistent elite product. Say what you want to say about the New England Patriots. Look how many years they were dominant in the National Football League. Go back further than that. San Francisco 49ers in the 90s, Cowboys in the 80s, Packers in the 60s. Okay, chemistry is so huge in terms of building a consistent winning formula. And that's what this team has right now. We talked off the top of the show about look at the plethora of talent that's coming back in 2025 with this team. They're still not finished with the 24 season. The roster is basically set for 25 and beyond. So, and you don't have problems in this locker room. They police themselves, okay? This organization does one of the best jobs in the National Football League of keeping a lot of the in-house stuff in-house. You think about how many teams we read about in the national media, certain things get outside. Individuals upset. Players that step out of line with the law, things like that. You didn't hear about that with this team, did you?
No.
No, and you won't. And you won't because of the type of character that Howie Roseman, Big Dom go out and critique before they bring in here, and the fact that they keep everything within house that they can.
All right, we sang the praises, obviously, of Jalen Hurts and the chemistry of this team. But let's talk about the drive of the game. And this one was a short drive. It was a quick drive. It was just around the corner.
Absolutely.
You could have walked, but you decided to drive. That was a one-play performance, and it is our drive of the game for your Philadelphia Eagles, brought to you by Davis Honda. And it had to do, and this is one of the best parts about it. We talked about it in the opening of the show, but there was an 18-play drive by the Washington Commanders to which stalled for only 3 points. The Eagles, ho-hum, hand the ball to Saquon Barkley, 60-yard touchdown, lasted 18 seconds, and Barkley got that 60-yard score. And like I said, the Eagles were off and running. Just push the button and Saquon Superman can put his cape on.
Listen, man, it's funny because I'm looking at that 18 seconds. It literally took Saquon 18 seconds to get 7 points, where it took Washington 18 plays to walk away with 3 points to start the first 2 series of the game.
And you and I noticed something very similar on that. I guess they weren't going to tackle Saquon like a running back in that game.
Thank you.
What?
Thank you. And by the way, the quarterback did rush for a touchdown today. So I guess that whole theory that you're going to tackle the quarterback like a running back, that just went out the window. Joe Witt Jr.
You talk about in big games, there are tone setters. Washington walks down the field on their opening drive at 18 plays to get 3 points. Eagles come back 1 play, boom, 60 yards to the house. That was the tone setter right there for what's to come on this day. That was a tone setter. And I do believe that shook up the Washington defense a lot. The fact that 1 play, they were behind in this game, and it brought the house down at Lincoln Financial Field today.
It set the tone for the day. It really set the tone for the day, because all you heard all week was, if they can stop Saquon Barkley, Joe Witt Jr., we got to stop. We're going to load the box, and we're going to stop Saquon Barkley. The first damn play out the box, 60 yards, bump your head on the goalpost. Wow.
It was, look, you look at 55 points. That's obviously a dominant performance. But the focus of this football team and the next man up mentality of this football team, this is a 55-point performance, gentlemen, on a day where you had to use 2 centers. Your starting center couldn't start I guess they just wanted to see if Landon could do it. Landon Dickerson started at center today. They did not deactivate Cam Jurgens, which was a little bit of a confusing call when we were doing the pregame show. Cam Jurgens ends up having to play because Landon Dickerson gets hurt, and you see the offense take it to the next level. Very rarely is the next man up the man that's supposed to be the starter anyway, and he turned out playing at a very high level. Then you talk about going through the season. Oren Burks stepping in most recently for Nakobe Dean. Then even before that, you have a guy like Brandon Graham go down in that Rams game out in Los Angeles. And who's the next man up from that point on? Nolan Smith, who already starting an ascent in terms of his production on the football field. Throughout this entire season, the Eagles unfortunately had struggles with Avonte Maddox through the first 4 weeks of the season. Boom, they put in a second-round pick in Cooper DeJean. He got one of the best corners and potentially, is a defensive rookie of the year candidate. Things could not have gone better for this Eagles team from offseason to now.
I tell you what, Mark, we all kind of scratched our head when, they announced that Cam Jurgens was going to be down for the day. Then they didn't make him inactive. So we all were kind of scratching our heads like, how is he active if he ain't starting, he ain't playing?
Right. They originally announced he wasn't going to start.
Right.
Inactives came out. He was not on that list, so he was active. And then he doesn't start.
So that kind of gives you a window into, in my opinion, how the Eagles operate. There are situations and times where guys are able to play, but they're a little more cautious with them. This move was made with you got your emergency third quarterback, in Tanner McKee. He's on the sideline, but he's the emergency player just in case the other 2 go down. Cam Jurgens today was basically the emergency center. So that kind of tells me, D-Gun, that he was really okay to play, but they were like, let's not exacerbate this situation. Let's make the change. And we can get the job done, with our backup center and our backup guard, and we don't have to put him at further risk. But he came in and played, looked like, he's always looked all season long. In a lot of ways, I was telling you guys, back there in the green room, I kind of wish they would have started him to begin with. Maybe we don't lose Landon Dickerson to an injury if everything is the way that it is. But, it just kind of gives you a glimpse into how the Eagles think and how they go about their business, that they're a little overly protective with players sometimes when they could be ready. They just hold them back and don't want to put them at further risk of re-injuring themselves.
You know what's said, though, and I believe it's the case because very few teams have the depth and the versatility that this team does have. And that was evident today. you know, we found out Cam's not playing. Then we're like, okay, he's going to be an active. Wait a minute, he's active, you know. And then Dickerson gets hurt, and you put him in. I mean, you have to be careful with back issues. You know how that goes.
Yeah.
You just have to be careful with back issues in itself. But the fact that he was able to come in and take over, and you're right, he looked like the Cam Jurgens of old. Now, they have 2 weeks basically to rest up and get everybody healthy again. We don't know the extent of Dickerson's injury. We don't know if that back injury for Cam Jurgens could flare up again somewhere along the line. I mean, you can flare up a back injury. The simplest of movements is just bend it down and pick up something. We don't know. But now they have extended time to nurse these type injuries and get ready for that one last game, the biggest games, one of 2 survivors left in the National Football League for all the chips.
All right. Now, listen, I said in the last segment we're going to do in the chat, we're going to do this giveaway. We're not going to hold it for another segment. We're going to do it right now, but we're doing it with people that are here at PARX Casino watching the show. They've been here throughout the season watching us, so we want to make sure we honor them as well. Do you want to do the honors? Oh, actually, I don't know if you'll be able to fit your hand in that helmet. Think you can do it? We're going to draw a name here. What do we got here? We got a football and a helmet.
Man, I can't grab it.
He can't get his fingers in that helmet.
Can we get some chopsticks? Can we go over to Bamboo and get some chopsticks?
All right.
Here we go.
We have a winner.
We have a winner.
Hey, did y'all tape it too?
Did you guys tape these? The goal is to open them. Oh, they're Post-it notes. They're sticking together.
Yeah, it's all good.
We really want to keep this a secret.
Shirley Mitchell.
Oh!
What?
Shirley Mitchell is the winner of the mini helmet.
Wow.
And a signed football.
Oh my goodness.
Shirley, I see you over there cheering. You're gonna have to give them your address. We will mail it to you. Okay? All right. Congratulations.
She has faith in us.
She got faith in us. We're gonna be listen, we're gonna be right back here on Super Bowl Sunday anyway, so you know where to find us. All right.
Oh, she'll be in New Orleans.
Going to New Orleans.
On Bourbon Street, I doubt none. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to our social media coordinator, Bailey Livezey, who's been looking at the chat throughout the show, wants to see what you guys have been saying. We'll talk about that, and we'll also continue to talk, as you would assume, about the Eagles headed back to the Super Bowl after a 55-23 victory over the Washington Commanders. That's when we return here on the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. The Beer Garden here at PARX Casino. Enjoy a fine stein and taking a game.
At Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come join our team.
This is PARX.
This is how you roll. This is how it goes. This is how you pop. This is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you. This is how you win. This is how you excite. This is how you all night. 360 hit me. Now we're going all in. I can feel it calling. The crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you. This is
PARX, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Lehocky. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show presented by Pond Lehocky. Marc Farzetta along with Seth Joyner and Derrick Gunn on the heels of the Eagles' victory. Blowout victory of the Washington Commanders. Jalen Hurts, impressive. Saquon Barkley, impressive. Heck, Will Shipley got in on the action, fellas, to help cap things off. And how great was it to see Saquon Barkley running down the sidelines with his third-string quarterback right there as he was bolting off for, a 57-yard run? Not too shabby before capping off that that drive with a touchdown. Now, we haven't talked about Will Shipley just yet, and there's some other things we haven't gotten to. And monitoring the chat throughout the show to this point is our social media coordinator, Bailey Livezey, standing by. Bailey, what do you have for us today?
Well, the Birds are going to the Super Bowl. The energy is very high in the chat. So for our first question, Saquon Barkley could be the league's Offensive Player of the Year. Is he the best running back that the Eagles have ever had?
Ooh.
Could be.
Wow.
I got. If I had a vote, I think he'd be the MVP. I mean, the way that he's turned a team who lost 6 of his last 7 after going 10-1 last year, as integral of a piece as he's been for this football team, he has my MVP vote. If he's the best running back in Philadelphia Eagles history, I think if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, you'd have to say yes.
I want to clarify. I want to check something here, Bailey, real quick. The question is the best, right?
Yes, the best.
Okay, so that's where I differentiate between greatest and best. Right. And I know as a bald man you should never say this, but I'm going to split hairs here. Greatest means there's no ifs.
Right.
You did it. You're the greatest.
Right.
Best means there's a lot of ifs. If you had this, if you had that. The best running back I have ever seen play for the Philadelphia Eagles is Saquon Barkley. And just like the best wide receiver I've ever seen play for the Philadelphia Eagles is Terrell Owens. It doesn't have to be long, but he was the best. While he was the best player I've ever seen put on that jersey at that position is T.O. This position, is Saquon Barkley.
Well, I would say this. He's the best single-season running back I've ever seen play for the Philadelphia Eagles. And even before my time, when you talk about the best running back the Eagles have ever had, you're talking about Wilbert Montgomery, LaShawn McCoy, Brian Westbrook. I think that will be determined over the duration of his time here in terms of the numbers piled up. But in terms of single season, there's no question he's the best single season back that the Philadelphia Eagles have ever had.
I look at it as the singular talent that you saw him have with the New York Giants. I remember thinking just get him behind a decent offensive line and out of New York in general, because I didn't want him playing against the Eagles twice a year either. But you see him, what he was able to do with the Giants despite that offensive line and all their struggles there. And I have made this comparison before. If you're like me, you grew up in the era of if Barry Sanders played behind Emmitt Smith's offensive line, what would he have done? This is the closest thing you could possibly get to that. And he accomplished everything he should have. 2,005-yard season, about to set the single-season record, including postseason, for rushing yards in a postseason and single-season combined. It's absolutely amazing. And you talk about, the difference maker, D-Gun, that's what he brings to the table. He is that home run hitter. And I've heard the Eagles' offensive linemen even say there are opportunities where guys could have got him in the backfield because we didn't do our job. But he still gets to the line without being touched, and then he takes an additional 50 yards after that. Well, I'd have to say the best.
To add some perspective, and I get what D-Gun is saying, you got Brian Westbrook, you got LaShawn McCoy, you got Wilbert Montgomery, great running backs. My thing is, if you could project D-Gun, if Saquon Barkley would have spent those 6 dormant years that he had,
oh my goodness,
in Philadelphia, we might be talking about him in a completely different light.
Absolutely,
in a completely different light. So I hear what you're saying. Maybe I retract it a little bit because those guys, Shady McCoy was just special. Mm-hmm. He was just special. Yeah. So I kind of get the sense that if Saquon could have been playing against a line like this, or the line, when the Eagles are making their Super Bowl runs, 7 years ago, and then in 2022, if he's playing, because Miles Sanders had 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards the year they went to the Super Bowl. Can you imagine Saquon Barkley running those plays?
Be pretty spectacular. Bailey, what else do you have for us?
Well, the Eagles' defense has been on point. How confident are you that they can keep this up against either Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen?
Wow.
They're so sound when you watch them play. And there's little small things. You guys hear me nitpicking during the game because I look at the game from a totally analytical standpoint. Like when Zach Bond or Oren Burks drops in zone and you're on Zach Ertz's side, well, Zach Ertz ain't running nothing vertical. You know, even Cooper DeJean, he's not running anything vertical. Everything that he runs is going to be out or in. You know, if your technique is inside, he's going to run outside away from you. If it's outside, he's going to run inside away from you. So why aren't we just like kind of anticipating that that's what he's going to run and make a play on the ball? But overall, when you look at this defense overall, they are just so sound in what they do, and they can be dominant in what they do. I don't worry about them playing against anybody because when you look at special teams, you know, offense and defense, you know, there's this synergy between the three units that is hard to bring together on a football team. You know, there's this complementary nature that they play with. They turn the ball over, the offense turns around, boom, they score. You know, for an example, on the Commanders' second play, the second series rather, they fumble the ball. The Eagles score on the next possession, okay? Every single time it seems like, you know, there's a fumble. Boom, they score on the next possession. Turnover on downs. Boom, they score on the next possession. Interception. Boom, they score on the next possession. So when you're playing complementary football in that way, that's a hard team to beat, especially if the opposing team is turning it over and you're not, and then they're turning your turnovers into points. Touchdowns, not field goals, touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
How worried are you about them facing Kansas City or Buffalo? Well, Kansas City is the two-time defending champion. It's not by accident. Kansas City is once again on the cusp of going to a third straight Super Bowl. You look at Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't put up the type of numbers we're accustomed to him seeing, but Patrick Mahomes makes plays when he has to make plays. You know, especially in the fourth quarters when Patrick Mahomes this season has really come to life. They were 15-2, but they gave away the last game of the season because nobody played. So technically, you know, they were 15-1 this year, okay? You look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen has been in the conversation for the latter half of the season in terms of an MVP. Josh Allen is that gunslinger. He's just going to play his kind of game. He doesn't care what happens. You know, they're both interesting perspectives in terms of facing this Eagles defense. Can this Eagles defense beat a Patrick Mahomes? Yes. Can they beat a Josh Allen? Yes. But it's going to take a Herculean effort, more so than anybody else they have faced this season, because Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs team has been there 3 times in the last 4 years, and they won 3 times in the last 4 years. So they know how to get it done. And then they've upgraded like the Eagles did. They upgraded at certain positions to get even better. So whoever they face is going to be a good game, but I'm not betting against the Philadelphia Eagles in 2024-25.
Remember, all season long, I mean, the Eagles have been, unfortunately, the only story from the Eagles this year, well, 2. Nick Sirianni yelling at the fans, and how great is Saquon Barkley. Those are the national stories being covered when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. When it talks about how good you are at football, the Lions have stolen those headlines in the NFC up until the postseason. The Vikings are right there as well, stealing headlines also. And then all anybody else really wanted to talk about was the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, they got the AFC Championship game that they wanted, obviously, but the Eagles have really been the juggernaut of the NFC this entire time. Everybody else has been the pretender. When people try to break down the contenders versus the pretenders, it turns out the Eagles were the only true contender out of the NFC. So at least you know that the best team in the NFC is going to go up against the best team of the AFC. And I got confidence that this Eagles team is not going to be denied. And one of the things I was reminded of this week is, let's not forget, when you talk about motivation, you lose the Super Bowl, you shouldn't need any more motivation than to get back to it. But Jalen Hurts took that picture of him walking off the field after losing to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he made that something he would see every single day, multiple times, as his lock screen on his phone. You might just say that's high school stuff, or just, that means nothing. Every day he was reminded, don't forget about what happened in that game, and it looks like he just might get the opportunity to not only take it back in the Super Bowl, but take it back and get revenge against the Chiefs as well.
Oh, and by the way, as an update, as if you guys, aren't watching anyway, the Buffalo Bills just went on a 12-play, 10-play, 72-yard drive to go up 10-7 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
There we go. 10:25 remaining in the second quarter. 10-7 in favor of the Bills. Bailey, what else do you have?
All right, last question. Who would you rather play in the Super Bowl? Rematch the Chiefs or go up against the Bills?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. When you get to this point in time and you've accomplished what you've accomplished, you won 17 of 20 games, it doesn't matter. You could bring in the 70s, Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll play them. It doesn't matter. Obviously, you would look at it and some would have a preference, but for me, it was never about that. It's all about winning the games that you can win as many games as you can, get to the Super Bowl, and whoever it is that you're going to face, that's what it is, And when you see this kind of offensive explosion for 55 points today and this kind of defensive, domination with 4 turnovers on the day, you got to feel pretty darn good about whoever it is that you play against. And you also, listen, you take into consideration that one of the two guys that you're going to play against, those guys have not turned the ball over at all in the playoffs. So it's going to be hard for the Eagles to turn those quarterbacks over. But there's going to be opportunities for them to get these punch-outs, and they have become masterful at, causing fumbles. 3 fumbles in this game. I mean, weren't all of them in the first half?
Yeah, 21 points in the first of turnovers. I want to see them play Kansas City, to be honest. They're the 2-time defending champs. I want to knock the king of the hill off the king of the hill, off the hill. That's why I want to see it. I want to see him play Kansas City in the rematch. That last meeting a couple of years was a phenomenal game. Came down to the last few seconds of the game. I agree with Seth. I don't care who you play. I don't care who you play right now. But I do want to see them play Kansas City. I want to see the Eagles get their revenge against Andy Reid and the Chiefs. And Andy Reid's my guy. I want to see them get their revenge against the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll put it to you like this. I would rather see them beat the Chiefs, but I'd rather them play the Bills.
Okay. All right. Okay.
If that makes any sense. Okay. That's the way I would rule it. All right. Bailey, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you.
Hey, next time we talk to you, it'll be after the Super Bowl.
Sunday. Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. Bailey Livezey, our social media coordinator, joining us right there. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to the sports doc about what went on in this game with Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, what he could tell us about that. Also, I think we already got our diagnosis on Jalen Hurts. Pretty healthy. And also, we'll also talk about that next man up mentality of this Philadelphia Eagles team. And, we'll continue to follow that AFC Championship game as well. When we return to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Hopefully you won yourself some money with the betPARX app and even in the betPARX Sportsbook here at Parx Casino. Enjoy all the games in a lap of luxury and win yourself some cold, hard cash.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. At Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
On game day, it's the Eagles' job to protect this house.
But in here, this is our house.
So we drank our pickle juice, then wrote the playbook on injury law.
And created a winning culture that knows
hungry dogs run faster. And we always bring the pressure because that's the standard. And we don't win until you win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Verizon. Welcome back to the betPARX postgame show presented by Lehocky. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you. One of the things we haven't even touched on just yet is the fact that the Eagles ran a couple of plays tonight, Seth, and you were breaking this down in our green room. that we've never seen before. I don't know if the weight was off the shoulders of interviews from Kellen Moore, not having to talk to any teams right now, but and the Cowboy job going, not to him, obviously, but this Philadelphia Eagles team ran 2 touch passes, shovel passes, pop passes, thank you, to Devontae Smith. They ran the ball twice on jet sweeps with Dallas Goedert, something we've never seen before. And there's a little bit of gamesmanship that goes into this, considering what the Eagles could be facing in 2 weeks.
No, listen, absolutely. The more material you can put out there for defensive coordinators to have to prepare for, the better chance you're going to have of being able to, outmaneuver, out-scheme, and out-strategize them. The Eagles' offense in a lot of ways was very, particularly in the pass game, has been very vanilla, and everyone has been talking about it. Like I saw, a route today where Jalen Hurts hit Dallas Goedert up the sideline. He was lined up in the slot. The inside guy, kind of went inside, and Dallas just took it up the field and ran like a fade route up the sideline. And, when you're in zone like that second man through your zone, you have to turn and you have to run with him because there's not going to be anybody there. He's settled in the flat waiting for somebody to come back to his zone. Dallas Goedert's wide open, big play, big passing play for Jalen Hurts. Those are the types of things that I thought that we would see in abundance out of Kellen Moore when he became, the offensive coordinator. But we saw some tricky things today, even when every single time, they brought Dallas Goedert off the ball. They brought Devontae Smith in motion to the trip side, okay? They ran the 2 receivers, Devontae and whether it was AJ or whether it was Jahan Dotson, they ran them off, and then they leaked Dallas late and just threw it out to the flat. And there was nobody there. Dallas made some major yards on those 2. So those are just 2 plays that I can remember, let alone the jet sweeps that we saw. There was a lot of plays in today's repertoire that we haven't seen all year long, and that's good because whether we are preparing for the Buffalo Bills defense or whether we're preparing for the Kansas City Chiefs defense, we want to give them as much information, as much material to have to prepare for because 2 weeks is a long time. A coach like Steve Spagnuolo can take your offense and what you do, throw it all in the computer, and come out with your tendencies and put together a plan that could take away a lot of what you do. So the more information you feed them, the more things that they have to begin to try to prepare for leading up to the Super Bowl, and you might put something in that maybe they missed. And I'm sure there's going to be some wrinkles within the offense that, that none of us has seen come Super Bowl. The same way with Andy Reid. He's very good at putting together different things that you haven't seen all year long, different formations, all these hook and ladder, all this nonsense, all these different things that makes a defensive coordinator stay up at night because you have to prepare for all of that stuff. You have to show your players each and every one of those plays so that at least it's in the computer. So they've seen it before, and once they see the formation and they see the motion and all those types of things, maybe it'll click in their mind, oh, this is what they're doing, so you can anticipate what they're going to try to do.
Gunnar, what do you think went into some of the uniqueness we saw in the play calling and play design today from Kellen Moore?
I think you notice they did it when they had a comfortable lead. And I think that's when you can really test a lot of different things, to see, okay, let's see if this will work. Let's see if this will work. And obviously, they had to open it up a little bit. It's the 3rd time you face an opponent in a season. You have to open it up a little bit. Even though you're exposing yourself to the potential next opponent, which is the Super Bowl opponent now, you still have to open up some things to try to put some distance between yourself and your current opponent and to keep the clock moving and to try to keep moving the ball down the field and get points on the board. I think that went into a lot of the strategy today in terms of what they were able to accomplish.
I want to go against the grain of a very popular argument, and yes, it does play into the Jalen Hurts haters, but for a guy that can't read a defense allegedly, he seems to really know when to check down to Saquon Barkley to rattle off a 60, 80, maybe even a 38-yard run, whatever it might be. He seems to know when to make sure he makes that play call and shift that call for Saquon's benefit there, Seth.
Well, I mean, listen, the game is always in flux. It's always in flow. And, to me, the mark of a good coordinator is his ability to adjust in game. A lot of coordinators can't adjust until they get to the locker room and they're drinking Gatorade and eating orange slices and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now he can get on the board and kind of devise what he wants to adjust. But when you got a guy like Andy Reid, if they wind up playing the Chiefs, guess what's going to happen? Andy's going to make his adjustments on the fly. And he may come out with one game plan in the first half, and if he's not having success, he's going to come out in the second half with a completely different game plan. He's that innovative, and his players are that smart that they can pick that up. So you got to be ready, and you got to be able to adjust on the fly. Because if you can't, when you get down to the best two teams that are left in the dance, the team that is the smartest is the team that's going to beat you. That's what happened to him in Super Bowl 22. Andy came out the first half, the Eagles dominated the game. The first half, they dominated. The second half, the Chiefs came out with the intent, we're going to run the football, because if we can establish the line of scrimmage against this team that's averaging giving up 121 yards per game on the season, if we can dominate the line of scrimmage, that's going to bring alive the rest of our offense, our play action pass, and we can get Travis Kelce and everybody else involved. They came out, they handed the ball to Pacheco, and he was running like a man possessed, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, in my opinion, was the only guy that was willing to come downhill and lay some fire on his ass to send a message that you can't run like that. But by then, the damage was already done, because once they went play action pass, now all of a sudden, the linebackers was frozen, the safeties were frozen, and Mahomes he started the deal. And he played a really good second half to put them in position, to win that game. So, listen, this is just what has to happen. If you're going to win this game, it's going to take all the strategic intellect that you can come up with, because you're going to be playing against a team that has the ability to adjust on the fly. Both of these teams can do that, and the Eagles coaching staff is going to have to do that. And guess what? I don't have a problem with them, because they do it. When you think about them getting off to slow starts all season long, and then all of a sudden, the last two possessions of the first half and the first three possessions of the second half, they just explode. That tells me that they've been able to adjust along the way and make the requisite changes that they needed to get the game under control.
Not only is Kansas City so good at adjusting on the fly, they come up with some of the most unorthodox plays you've ever seen before. I mean, this is straight playground ball.
Yeah.
And then you hear the players, Travis Kelce, Mahomes, talk about after the game, oh, yeah, we just did that yesterday in our walkthrough. So you just did it one time this week, and it worked to perfection for a time. They do this week in and week out for the last 3 or 4 years. They will definitely show you something you've never seen before. They do it every week throughout the course of a season. And you sit there going, how come somebody else can't figure this out, how to do stuff like this, right? So that's why I love the matchup. You got the Eagles with such versatility and depth against possibly Kansas City, by the way. They just retook the lead on Buffalo. That's going to give you stuff to make you scratch your head. And one, Patrick Mahomes throws it over his arm, throws it, don't look past it, flips it underhand. You got stuff going on that's crazy. And I think it would be the best matchup. I know you'd rather see him play Buffalo, as a lot of people in the chat said. I don't care about revenge. I just want to play the easiest path to the Super Bowl. I want to see the best matchup possible.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this is important. I look at the game, from a strategic standpoint, but I look at it from a technique and a fundamental standpoint. And what I see, a lot of these so-called brilliant, these guru-minded offensive coordinators, they do a lot of game planning against your technique and your fundamental deficiency.
Yeah.
Like when your eyes are not in the right place and you're not dropping and relating to 2 or relating to 3, when you're looking at the quarterback too much and you're not necessarily seeing where the wide receivers are and where the tight ends are so that you can relate to him properly, or you get a defensive end where he gets a play away and he's chasing the play knowing that he's the contain on that side. When they come back with a reverse or a bootleg that way and now the quarterback gets outside, he has the option to either run or throw the ball down the field. So they are game planning against your inefficiencies, and your lack of a defensive integrity. So when you play against a team like that, you've got to be on your fundamentals. Your technique has got to be solid. And you got to play the game the right way, because they take advantage of your mistakes so much more than they scheme you. So I'll give you a classic example. Travis Kelce would be a concern the way that we play Zach Ertz today.
Oh, my goodness.
Because we did not relate to Zach Ertz where he was, and we didn't buy into the fact that this guy doesn't run vertical routes. Everything he runs is a stop route, an out route, or an in route. I'm not worried about him running away from me because he doesn't have the speed to run away from me anymore. What I'm worried about is making sure that I understand that if I'm lined up with inside technique, okay, that he's gonna work to me and then work away from my technique. If I'm lined up inside, he's gonna work in and he's gonna work out. If I'm lined up outside, he's gonna work out and he's gonna work in. Or he's just gonna work out and just sit down in the middle of the zone and the quarterback can get it to him right now. When you're in zone coverage, I get it. Sometimes when they get 5 guys out into the route, it's a problem because you got one more guy in the zone than you can cover, especially when you're playing 4 underneath. But you also got to understand numbers and who the primary receiver is. So if I'm dropping hook to curl and I got Travis Kelce on my outside, I'm going to squeeze and relate to him, until Patrick Mahomes shows me that he's willing to throw that dig behind me, okay? Because what they like to do is move the chains. They don't have the ability for the big play down the field anymore. Listen, they got Worthy, and he's probably the fastest guy in the National Football League. But what Kansas City prides themselves on is being able to run the ball, win on first down, convert third downs, and just methodically move down the field. Now, if they get an opportunity to take a shot, they'll take a shot. But this is how they like to operate. So defensively, you have to strategize in a way where you're taking away the little small stuff so they don't get 5 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards on first down. You want to get them in second and long, but also understand on second and long, they're not trying to get it all. They're trying to get to 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, a more manageable situation. So you have to play with that in mind until they show you that they're willing to throw the ball further down the field.
All right. Now, we haven't even touched on this just yet, but in the time that we started the show, 67 minutes ago, Frankie Louvu jumped off sides 3 more times.
That was comical.
You guys have been at this a little bit longer than I have, and Seth, of course, you played the game. I have never heard a referee issue a warning. If you guys don't knock it off, we're just going to give the opposing team a touchdown.
I've never heard that before.
Okay, you've never seen it. Seth, have you ever heard that before?
Hey, listen, before he actually got to it, the guys, I guess Mike Pereira was, the broadcast official. And he actually said that before the referee said it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you intentionally keep doing this, it's an unsportsmanlike conduct. And as the ball gets closer and closer to the, to the
goal line,
to the goal line, then hey, guess what? If you persist in doing that, we'll just give the Eagles a football. That's apparently in the rules. I didn't know that either.
I didn't know that. The referee actually explained it after the game, and I'm seeing the email here from the Eagles. The way it went down was the way Hockey, who was the official today, the son, if you will, simply put, a team can't commit multiple fouls in an effort to prevent the score. So, number 4, Frankie Louvu, jumped the ball a couple times. Then it was when the warning came in. Again, that's when the warning came in. It's meant to prevent a score when the other team is doing it, so we can essentially award the score. Forget essentially. That's exactly what they would have done. And then Jalen Hurts punched it in on the tush push, and I was kind of upset because I wanted to see the touchdown just rather awarded because I'd never seen that before either.
I think that was the most comical event ever. Jalen went to the hard couch, and Frankie Louvu, like an Olympic diver, diving over the pile several times. Of all people, I'm glad it was him making himself look stupid because of the type of player that he is. But I'm sitting there going, can they do that? Can you actually just give somebody a touchdown? I had no idea.
It was 2 encroachments and 1 offsides on that same play.
Well, I mean, you think about it. He could keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you an inch, a half an inch, a quarter inch, 3/4 of an inch. I mean, at what point do you say, okay, you're delaying the game? Mm-hmm. This is unsportsmanlike conduct. So what do? I mean, because once they got to inside of a yard, you just knew it was just a matter of time before they punched it in. They was just delaying the inevitable.
Could you imagine if he jumped over that line of scrimmage and hit Jalen?
And hurt him?
Hurt him?
And that's why Jalen, after a while, he would hard count him and back up out of the way.
And a phenomenal job by Jalen, by the way, on that hard count. Really throughout the game, he's really improved on that.
Yep.
All right. Now, we have talked a little bit about the injuries, but we're going to hear from the good doctor himself, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, especially when it comes to Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, the center position for the Eagles. We'll talk about that and more with Dr. Bruce Grossinger when we return here on the betPARX postgame show on the heels of an NFC Championship for your Philadelphia Eagles with a 55-23 blowout of the Washington Commanders. I know all of Philadelphia feels terrible for Josh Harris right now. Just kidding. When we return, we'll talk to the good doctor, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, on the betPARX postgame show. The 360 Lounge here at Parx Casino. Enjoy some fantastic entertainment. Laugh along with Joe Conklin's comedy night and enjoy some ice-cold drinks.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges, from a link-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them. Sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Pond Lehocky, we're neither a pond nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pond Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pond Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Oof, stuck paying for that old phone? Don't be. You know, at Verizon, we'll pay off your phone, and you'll get iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence on us. Now with Genmoji. That's a value of up to $1,600. Only on Verizon.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show on the heels of the Philadelphia Eagles winning another NFC Championship. The second one for Nick Sirianni, the second one for Jalen Hurts. And how about this one? The third one there for Lane Johnson. Not too bad. Coming up right now, let's get to him. Let's talk to the good doctor, Dr. Bruce Grosinger. We're going to find out what's going on with all the injuries in this game, in particular the way it was handled pregame with Cam Jurgens. Dr. Bruce, thanks so much for joining us. We know you were down there at the link. First, just a fan report for us, please. How hopping was the link tonight?
It was incredible. It tried to get home through Broad Street. They greased the poles, which certainly keeps a guy like me. I couldn't climb the pole without grease. But in any event, let's not talk about me. Let's not make this about me. The link was incredible. The tailgating, there was probably 20 to 1 people just outside. A festive situation, relatively warm weather. And I watched the game with Wilbert Montgomery, and he was down on the field. So to be able to watch with him, and it was a tremendous game. And you know, nobody expected to be that kind of a rout, but every one of those turnovers translated into points. And it was just in that first play when Saquon ran, I think that was like Field of Dreams type of stuff. And just try to give you a little sense for the ecstasy of being at Lincoln Financial Field.
What did Wilbert say about that run by Saquon, 60 yards?
He thought it was great. He actually spoke to Saquon before the game, and he was talking about getting it to the second level and stuff. So who knows if that had an influence on him? But watching with him and his wife Patty, it was just an incredible day, and now looking ahead to New Orleans, and that'll just be great. And we've just had a great ride here on the Seth Joyner Parks Casino Show, and it was just wonderful.
Certainly, and I do just one more plug for you, Dr. Bruce Grosinger. If you do try to climb a greased pole today, make sure you go see Dr. Bruce Grosinger after you fall off that pole, and hopefully it's nothing
That's
serious.
right.
There you go.
You don't have to be Cam Jurgens have a back injury. You could climb a greased pole and have your own back injury.
What a perfect segue, Doc. We're clicking here. The chemistry's working here. Doc, tell me about Cam Jurgens, because this was an odd way to start things off. We find out that he's not going to be starting. Then he's active. He's not on the inactives list, so he's active for today. Does not start the game. First off, what did you make of that? And then what do you know about Cam Jurgens before the game?
Definitely very different and very interesting. Conflicting reports about whether he was out or in. He was, dressed for the game, And for what I understand, he had a strained back and a sore back. And they practiced all week with Landon at center. And as you know, at Alabama, that was his position. And so Landon was perfect at center. And they figured the combination of Landon and Steen would be better than a slightly injured Cam Jurgens. But as it turned out, as you know, segue to painful knee. Landon Dickerson's had, knee pain on and off. I don't believe a structural injury, but beginning in the second half, they decided that they'd be better off to, that Cam would be better than a Landon with a painful knee. So it's nice to have options, and I think that's really what happened. And very unusual for somebody to be activated, a starter to be activated and not play, and that was the scenario tonight.
Yeah, it was, and we wondered, out loud during the pregame show when it was announced that, he wouldn't be starting. We just assumed that he'd be deactivated for the day. And then to find out he wasn't deactivated, that was kind of a head scratcher. And then the fact that he was in full uniform on top of that. And then, Doc, just looking at, in hindsight, they could have just went ahead and played Cam. And maybe, just maybe, Landon might not have got injured, the way he got injured at center. So I get it. The Eagles are a little more, conservative when it comes to the injuries with their players. And probably the thought was, okay, he could be the emergency center, and winds up he had to play. But, that aside, where is Landon? He's got 2 weeks to recover. Obviously, Cam's got 2 weeks to get his back right. Any concerns with either one of those injuries moving forward as we approach Super Bowl 59?
I want to be optimistic. It seems like all year, we've been collaborating and we've been optimistic. I haven't heard anything ominous. And the fact that Landon is questionable. When we've seen the bad injuries, we saw the Jacoby injury, we saw the Brady Graham. They're out. But Landon was questionable with a painful knee. So I don't believe Landon has a structural knee problem. He just has a painful knee. And look at all those tush pushes. I mean, imagine being the center of that universe over and over again. I think it's not a great mystery why Landon may have hurt himself having like 2,000 pounds of people falling on you, and number 4 shooting across the line. I was hearing you talking about it. I've never seen that before either. So there's things. The great thing about football is there's things you've never seen. You've never seen a team purposely jump off sides and just going down to like infinity to the goal line. That was really, really weird. But I believe that Cam, he showed he was able to come in and play with his back strained. And I believe that their PT, their between game PT has been exceptional. And I believe Landon will be ready, whether it's the Bills or the Chiefs. I'm confident about both of those. And we go to the third injury, Kenny Gainwell. I didn't actually see the play, but I noticed that he was out in a concussion protocol. And when you have 2 weeks to prepare, we're again going to be projecting that they really need lightning and thunder. They need Gainwell as the off-speed pitcher. And so I'm glad they have the 2 weeks to get better. They're the only 3 injuries that I noted today. And so I think overall we're in good shape. Nothing appeared to be catastrophic.
Yeah, Gainwell got cracked on the kick return, I believe it was.
Yeah. A lot of people in the chat are asking about BG, Doc. He kind of hinted last week that potentially, with the Super Bowl, if they made it to the Super Bowl, that he may be back. So there's been a lot of questions on, is that potentially something that can happen? Or is, BG just, is it pie in the sky for BG to want to get back out there to compete in the Super Bowl?
That's a great question. And we appreciate all of those questions in the chat. What I've heard is that BG will be able to play. If you remember Rob Gronkowski, Gronk had terrible forearms, like a ton of surgeries on the triceps. And when Gronk played, he had a gigantic brace and was able to play. And he played numerous games with that brace. So I believe that in looking at Brandon and hearing about, not speaking to him personally, he's been sending out signals, continuously that the window would open up. He'd be wearing a big brace, And for him to get back would mean so much to the team. And again, his arm, he'd be somewhat limited, but he's an incredible player. And we think about his strip sack when they did win that Super Bowl. I think it would be going back to Field of Dreams, just romanticizing about something great. To have Brandon Graham finish his career with another Lombardi trophy, and just to come back from a triceps tear and a surgery, I'm going to dream. I'm going to dream that he can come back.
Doctor, it's my medical opinion that you are rather excited about this game in New Orleans, my friend.
Slightly, only slightly.
Hey, Doc, are you going down to New Orleans?
I am. I was going to just go do interviews at Radio Row, but looks like I'm going to roll down there, and I'm going to do my, try to overpay for a ticket for myself and my son Spencer. So I think the ball's rolling downhill. You can't stop us.
Beautiful. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, thank you so much for joining us throughout the season. We look forward to catching up with you in 2 weeks to talk about the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Thanks, Doctor.
How sweet it is. Have a good night.
You as well, Doc. I think Doc's ready to play in New Orleans, as a matter of fact. Gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes left in the show here. And there's a lot to talk about when you talk about the success of this Philadelphia Eagles season. Right now, book it NFC champions after the NFC East Championship, of course, as well. I want to start with the end of last year. And we know the long road that the Eagles had to go through at the end of last year, a historic collapse where they let the number one seed in the NFC just go away. Then you go through the bye week this year where they lose to the Buccaneers in embarrassing fashion. Then they come out of the bye week, all the talk about how bad the team was starting out, where are they going to go from here? And then they beat the Browns. And after they beat the Browns, Nick Sirianni is caught on the sidelines yelling at fans. Not exactly a good look. Has his kids there at the podium with him after the game. And ever since that moment, the Philadelphia Eagles have only lost one game. And now they are on their way to the Super Bowl. It also encompasses a 10-game winning streak here for the Eagles. A historic run by Saquon Barkley. And a quarterback with the presence of mind to step aside for a second as far as a passing game was concerned and let this offensive line and Saquon Barkley be the stars of the show. When you think about what went on this season, from last season to the offseason to this year, what jumps out to you the most about the success the Eagles had in another trip to the Super Bowl?
After that last season of 23, Howie Roseman, front office, scouting department sat down and identified they had a number of deficiencies that need to be corrected, and it started with the coaching staff. And you look at how they made multiple changes in the coaching structure, not the head coach, but coordinators, position coaches. And then they felt they needed to get better at certain positions, running back, linebacker, so on and so forth. And Howie kept adding these pieces, and you're wondering, okay, how are they going to fit in? Now, we knew Saquon was going to be a great addition. There's nobody on the planet who thought Zach Baum would turn out to be what he has been to this team on defense. We had question marks coming into the season about the younger players. Jalen Carter started out as a rookie, as one of the top Rookie of the Year candidates and faded down the stretch. Jordan Davis, how would his stamina hold up? We've seen him 2 years, but how would his stamina hold up this year? You're going to start a rookie at cornerback named Quinyon Mitchell? Who is he? Out of Toledo, who is he?
Right.
Or Tulsa.
Toledo.
Toledo, so on and so forth. And all the questions were answered as the season continued to roll along. And then we realized at some point, this ain't 2023. There will be no collapse. Whether they blow a team out, whether they play a close-knit game, somehow, some way, this team is going to find a way to get it done. And that's all they did, except one time in the second half of the season.
Well, I'm gonna let you have the fact that Howie and deservedly so to be able to make the adjustments of what he did was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give some credit to the head coach who I was very critical of during that period that you're talking about.
Sure,
because during that Cleveland Brown game, Nick Sirianni made a plethora of bad decisions that really almost cost the team the game. On top of the rhetoric that was going on the sideline between he and the fans. For one to be so self-aware of their mistakes and to correct them week by week by week and still hold the attention and hold the motivation of his team in doing so, to me, that's phenomenal. And why he's not mentioned around the league with the greats, and why he's not on that 5-coach list of Coach of the Year is way beyond me. He's deserving of it, and I think that his reputation has preceded him in how the rest of the country looks at him and how the rest of the national media looks at him. But the truth of the matter is his team believes in him. His team buys into what he's selling. He has a way of motivating his players, and when you hear his players stand up at his defense, there's something to be said about that, because a head coach is a salesman. And if his players aren't buying what it is that he's selling, it's hard for that team to be successful. And you hear it from player after player, players that played for him, players that are playing for him now, retired players just down the line. So what we see sometimes can be deceptive to our own eyes, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is how his 53-man roster looks at him and sees him, and how they look at him as the coach and the leader of that organization. So his growth and his ability to be self-aware that changes need to be made, and to make them that fast, not next year, but to make them in that moment, from his decision-making to how he handles his players, to the rhetoric that almost transpired between he and Jalen Carter on the sideline, and how Clint Hurts stepped in and said, "Don't worry about it, coach. I got this. The last thing we need is for you to be chewing our defensive tackle out, because the national media is going to throw it up for the world to see, and the judgment is going to further come from that." For him to be that self-aware and be able to make those changes, I think in large part, that's the answer to your question. Because, Howie's got to bring the players in here. And it's one thing to go out and acquire talent. It's another thing to have the coaches on board that can develop the talent and bring those players along and get them to buy into playing together unselfishly, and get them to understand that if you do what we're asking you to do, the true potential of what you hold can exceed your expectations. And for a guy like Zach Bond, that's exactly what happened.
Absolutely.
Because you can't tell me in his wildest dreams he couldn't have believed that 1 year starting could net him what he's netted.
Absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. Gunnar, you talked about Howie Roseman. Seth, you just spoke so eloquently about Nick Sirianni. I'm going to bring it full circle right here, and I'm going to talk about the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of people can say, keep the main thing the main thing. A lot of people can say the only thing that matters is winning. But when a quarterback still puts up career numbers, by the way, for himself when it comes to passer rating, when it comes to yards per attempt, when it comes to completion percentage, does all that while saying, all right, you know what, I'll step up in the clutch moments, make sure I don't turn the football over, and I'll get rid of that problem. And, yes, if I have to defer to only the most powerful force in the NFL for this season, which is Saquon Barkley behind this offensive line, I'm going to go ahead and defer to that. But when you need me, I'll be here. Comes to that Steelers game, they needed him. He obviously stepped up and did that. Today, they needed him to step up again in the NFC Championship game and dispel any thought of whether or not he could cost you an NFC Championship game. And instead of costing, he excelled and came up in the clutch for the Eagles today. The question, unfortunately, and though I think not valid, having a guy like Jalen Hurts be questioned again as to whether or not he could be the guy, he pushed that aside even further today with his performance in the NFC Championship game, and is now back for not his first, but his second Super Bowl appearance. Could not be more happy with Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, or Jalen Hurts. And when it came to listening to everybody else around them, that's what they did. And that's why the Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl. It has been an absolute blast covering the Eagles throughout this entire run. We got one more game coming up, and that game is the Super Bowl from New Orleans. We'll be here at Parx Casino in 2 weeks to break it all down for you with the betPARX pregame show. Brought to you by, try not to miss me too much there, Gunnar. We can FaceTime later. I know he will, just to taunt me with his grill. That's what he'll do. Look what I'm making. You ain't going to taste it.
Who, me? No, I wouldn't do that to you guys.
Yeah, he would. Because as much as this guy grills, you would expect that one Sunday out of the year, he would bring something wrapped up in aluminum foil for us, for the boys to taste.
You know, I think it's green screen. I think it's somebody else's grilling. He just he puts himself in there.
Okay, keep believing. Go ahead. Keep believing.
We've never seen the product.
All right. What we got to do, we got to, the crew and everybody, we got to put together a little fun or something.
I'm going to try my best Super Bowl Sunday to bring you something here.
Yeah. Some ribs.
Now, some ribs. Now, I'm going to have to grill them. Now, I'll tell you what about ribs, especially when you smoke them.
Sorry.
They taste better the next after you let them chill in the fridge and get that smoke in them? What?
I don't give a damn.
Because we ain't going to taste it.
I don't give a damn. Just as long as they falling off the bone, I'm good. I don't care. We'll throw them in the heater. We'll throw them in the microwave in the back.
Well, you know, ribs. beef costs a lot of money nowadays.
No, we want some pork ribs, some baby back.
Pork costs a lot of money nowadays. I'm gonna see how many food stamps I got left.
I put the quarter in the machine. And we just got it going. My apologies on that. It is. Let me say one more time what a thrill it has been up until this point here, and we got that one more game to talk about, and that's the game that's going to be going down between the Chiefs or the Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles. By the way, the Chiefs up 21-16 right now. Penalty on KC. Okay, so the touchdown's going to stand. Waiting on the point after to see what develops there. But 23 seconds left in the first half between the Chiefs and the Bills. Extra points good. It's now 21-17 in favor of the Chiefs. 23 seconds left in the first half. 23 seconds left in the first half.
Shoeless Mac Hollins?
Shoeless Mac Hollins.
34-yard touchdown
walking around. And as we did in the pregame show, Seth, I do want to make people know that didn't watch the pregame show. Maybe you missed the pregame show. If so, why? Second, we talked about this, but a good friend of Seth Joyner, a friend of this show as well, we had the opportunity to meet him when he actually came to the green room earlier in the season. My first and only time meeting him, and just thought he was a wonderful man. Jim Alano, unfortunately, close friend of Seth and business partner of Seth for over 40 years, going all the way back to Seth's playing days here with the Philadelphia Eagles, passed away this morning, Seth, and we all send you and the Jim Alano family our condolences.
Yeah, my condolences to the family, to all the guys that he's represented. A lot of you guys may know Jim has been an agent in the Philadelphia area for well over 40 years. Our relationship expands way back, in my second year being in the league. He became my agent that year, and he's been my agent, my CPA, my good friend, my brother, ever since then. And life will not be the same without that man, in my world. He'll be missed. He's my golf partner, the whole deal. So he's going to be sorely missed, and, my prayers and sympathies and condolences go out, to the Solano family.
Derrick, I know you had a chance to meet him as well.
Well, yeah, I've met him a number of times throughout the years, in recent years, and just a pleasant individual. You would never know that he was a sports agent, a power agent for anybody. He was just a down-to-earth individual and just loved talking to people, And so, to reiterate what Seth says, condolences to his family. Jimmy, well done. Rest in peace, my brother.
Absolutely. Condolences, thoughts, and prayers to his family. And Seth, again, sorry for your loss, my friend. Once again, thank you so much for joining us throughout this season and postseason. We look forward to breaking down an Eagles Super Bowl victory. And, by the way, quick update. The Bills failed in a 2-point conversion attempt, so it's still 21-16 with 23 seconds left. Why? Delaying the inevitable. All right, we'll talk to you guys in 2 weeks following Super Bowl 59.